March 3rd, 1967. 2:47 a.m. 12 men surrounded Small's Paradise Jazz Club on 135th Street, all of them armed, 6 with .45 automatics, 4 with shotguns, 2 with Tommy guns left over from Prohibition, $100,000. That's what Frank Lucas had paid them, split 12 ways, $8,333 each, more money than most of them had seen in their lives. The job was simple. Wait until Bumpy Johnson comes out. Empty your weapons. Don't stop shooting until he stops moving. Then disappear into the night. Frank had planned this for 6 weeks, studied Bumpy's routine, his exits, his security, his blind spots. Tonight was perfect. Thursday night, jazz night. Bumpy always stayed until closing, always left through the side door at 3 a.m., always had only 2 bodyguards with him. 3 men against 12. The math was simple. Bumpy Johnson would die on that sidewalk, and Frank Lucas would become the undisputed king of Harlem. Except, at 2:55 a.m., the side door opened. Not 3 men walked out, 47. Every bouncer, every waiter, every bartender, every cook, every off-duty cop Bumpy had on payroll, every numbers runner who owed him their life, every street soldier who'd been waiting inside for 3 hours, all armed, all ready, all looking directly at Frank Lucas's 12 men hiding in the shadows. And standing in the center of them, calm as Sunday morning, was Bumpy Johnson. He was holding a microphone, connected to speakers someone had set up on the club's roof. His voice echoed down 135th Street like the voice of God. Frank Lucas sent you here to kill me, I know. I've known for 6 weeks. And I'm going to give you a choice you'll only get once. He paused. Let that sink in. Drop your weapons and walk away, right now. No questions asked, no retaliation. You go home to your families. You forget tonight happened. You forget Frank Lucas exists. Another pause. Or you can try your luck against 47 men who know every corner of this block, who've been waiting for you, who've been told exactly where you're hiding. Bumpy pointed. At the fire escape where 2 men crouched with shotguns. At the alley where 3 more waited with pistols. At the rooftop across the street where 4 men aimed rifles. At the parked delivery truck where 3 more hid in the back. Every position, every hiding spot, every angle Frank had chosen for his ambush. Bumpy knew them all. You got 10 seconds, Bumpy said. 10. One man dropped his shotgun, raised his hands, stepped into the light. 9. 2 more followed, on pistols clattering on concrete. 8, a 4th, a 5th, 7. They were running now, not walking, running, down side streets, into alleys, gone. 6. 9 men had dropped their weapons. 3 remained, stubborn, loyal to Frank, or stupid enough to think they could still win. 5, 4, 3. The 3 holdouts looked at each other, calculating, weighing odds. 12 against 3 had been good odds. 3 against 47? 2. 2 of them broke, threw down their guns and sprinted. 1. Only 1 man remained, standing in the shadow of a brownstone stoop, Tommy gun in his hands, young, maybe 22. His name was Deshaun D. Marlowe, and he'd made a promise to Frank Lucas that he intended to keep. Bumpy looked directly at him. You sure about this, son? D raised the Tommy gun. What happened in the next 8 seconds would become the most talked about shootout in Harlem history, and the reason Frank Lucas never tried to kill Bumpy Johnson again. To understand that night, you need to understand how it started 6 weeks earlier. January 18th, 1967. Frank Lucas sat in his apartment on Lenox Avenue, staring at his ledgers. He was making $50,000 a week, pure heroin from Southeast Asia. Blue Magic, the best product in New York. But he was paying Bumpy Johnson $10,000 a month in tribute. $10,000 for the privilege of operating in Harlem. $10,000 to a 60-year-old man who Frank thought was living in the past. Bumpy didn't want to expand into heroin, said it destroyed the community, said real power came from protecting your neighborhood, not poisoning it. Frank thought that was weak. Old school thinking. The game had changed. This was 1967, not 1947. Money moved different now. Power moved different. And Frank was tired of asking permission, tired of bowing to a relic, tired of pretending Bumpy Johnson still mattered. So Frank made a decision. If Bumpy wouldn't step aside voluntarily, Frank would remove him, permanently. He called a meeting with his top lieutenants. 6 men showed up at his apartment that night. "We're taking Bumpy out," Frank said. No preamble, no discussion, just fact. His lieutenant, Jimmy Jazz Hayes, spoke up. "Bump's got too much protection, too many eyes, too many—" "I know what he's got," Frank interrupted. "That's why we're not doing it the usual way. No drive-by, no restaurant hit, no public execution." "Then how?" "We wait until he's vulnerable. Thursday nights. He goes to Small's Paradise. Jazz Club on 135th Street. Stays until closing. Always leaves through the side door around 3 a.m. He's got bodyguards. 2, maybe 3. We send 12. Overwhelming force. Fast. Brutal. Over in 30 seconds. Jimmy shook his head. "Bump's gonna know. He always knows." "Not this time," Frank said. "We use outside talent. Guys from Brooklyn. Guys from the Bronx. Nobody in Harlem knows about it. Nobody talks. Nobody leaks." He pulled out a stack of cash, $100,000 in neat bundles. 12 men, 8,000 each. They do the job, they disappear. We never see them again. Bumpy's dead. I take over. Clean. Simple. It wasn't clean. It wasn't simple. Because what Frank Lucas didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that one of his 6 lieutenants sitting in that room was feeding everything directly to Bumpy Johnson. His name was Marcus Smooth Williams, and he'd been on Bumpy's payroll for 3 years, longer than he'd been working for Frank. $2,000 a month, every month, just to listen and report. Marcus left Frank's apartment at 11:47 p.m. By midnight, he was on a payphone calling Bumpy's cousin Nat. By 12:15 a.m., Nat was sitting in Bumpy's study, repeating everything Marcus had said. Bumpy listened, didn't interrupt, didn't react, just absorbed the information like a computer processing data. When Nat finished, Bumpy was quiet for a long time. Then he smiled. Not a happy smile, a chess player's smile. The smile of a man who just saw checkmate 20 moves ahead. 12 men, Bumpy said quietly. "Yeah." "From outside Harlem. Brooklyn and the Bronx," Marcus said. "Thursday nights at Small's. That's the plan." Bumpy stood, walked to his window, and looked out over Harlem, his kingdom, his responsibility. "Frank thinks I don't know," Bumpy said. "Thinks he can bring in outside talent, and I won't hear about it. Thinks my network only works inside Harlem. You want me to stop it? We can grab the hitters before they even—" "No." Nat blinked. "No?" "We let it happen. Bump, if 12 armed men show up, we'll be ready. But I want Frank to commit. I want him to spend that money. I want him to send those men. I want him to believe he's about to win." "Why?" "Because when he loses, I want the lesson to be so clear, so brutal, so complete, that nobody in Harlem ever thinks about coming at me again." For the next 6 weeks, Bumpy Johnson prepared. First, intelligence. Marcus reported every detail, the exact date, the exact time, the exact number of men. But Bumpy didn't stop there. He had his Brooklyn contacts identify the shooters. Within 2 weeks, he had names, addresses, families. He knew Deshaun Marlowe was a 22-year-old from Bed-Stuy with a sick mother and a gambling problem. He knew Raymond Ray Johnson was 28, just out of Rikers, desperate for money. He knew Curtis Williams had 3 kids and a wife who didn't know what he did for a living. Bumpy knew everything about all 12 men, their weaknesses, their pressures, their breaking points. Second, counter-positioning. Bumpy spent 2 weeks mapping every possible position on 135th Street. Fire escapes, rooftops, parked cars, alleys, basement windows, anywhere a shooter could hide. He had his men walk the block at night, test sightlines, identify blind spots. Then he positioned his own people in better spots. Higher ground, better angles, clearer shots. Yet by March 1st, Bumpy had 47 armed men ready. Not soldiers, not gangsters, waiters, bouncers, bartenders, cooks, off-duty cops, numbers runners, janitors, regular people who owed Bumpy their livelihoods, who'd eaten because Bumpy paid their rent when they couldn't, who'd avoided jail because Bumpy made a phone call, who'd gotten hospital care for their kids because Bumpy wrote a check. These weren't mercenaries. They were believers, and they'd walk through fire for Bumpy Johnson. Third, psychological warfare. This was the brilliant part. Bumpy didn't just want to survive the ambush. He wanted to break it without firing a shot. So he had speakers installed on the roof of Small's Paradise, had a microphone set up inside, had his men practice the timing. The door opens. 47 men walk out. Bumpy steps forward with the microphone. And 10-second countdown. Most of Frank's men would break. Bumpy was counting on it. Because mercenaries have no loyalty. They fight for money. And when the money isn't worth dying for, they run. March 3rd, 1967, 2:30 a.m. Frank Lucas's 12 men arrived in 3 cars. Black Buicks, nondescript, stolen plates. They parked 2 blocks away, walked to 135th Street in pairs. Casual, spread out, didn't want to draw attention. By 2:40, they were in position. Deshaun Marlowe and Ray Johnson on the fire escape. Curtis Williams and 2 others in the alley. 3 more on the rooftop across the street. 4 in and around a parked delivery truck. All of them watching the side door of Small's Paradise. Waiting. At 2:47, they got the signal. Bumpy was still inside, regular Thursday night crowd, jazz band playing, drinks flowing, nothing unusual. And the men checked their weapons, chambered rounds, clicked off safeties. Deshaun's hands were sweating inside his gloves. This was his first real job. Frank had promised him $8,333, enough to pay off his gambling debts, enough to get his mother the surgery she needed. All he had to do was hold the trigger down for 10 seconds. Easy. Except his stomach was churning. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. This wasn't some corner beef. This was Bumpy Johnson, the king of Harlem. Legends didn't die easy. At 2:55, the side door opened. Deshaun raised his Tommy gun, started to squeeze the trigger, then stopped, because it wasn't 3 men walking out. It was 47. They came out in a wave, big men, armed men, spreading out across the sidewalk like a military formation. And in the center, calm as Sunday morning, was Bumpy Johnson, holding a microphone. His voice boomed through the speakers. "Frank Lucas sent you here to kill me." Deshaun's blood turned to ice. How did he know? How did Bumpy know they were there? "I've known for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. The whole time, every meeting, every plan, every position. Bumpy had known. Drop your weapons and walk away, right now, no questions asked." Deshaun looked at Ray. Ray's eyes were wide, terrified. "Or you can try your luck against 47 men." Bumpy started pointing at their exact positions, the fire escape, the alley, the rooftop, the delivery truck. He knew everything. "You got 10 seconds. 10. Ray dropped his shotgun immediately. Hands up. Stepped into the light. 9. Curtis and 2 others followed, guns clattering, running. 8. More men broke, sprinting into the darkness. 7, 6, 5. Deshaun watched 9 men abandon the mission. His finger was still on the trigger, but his hands were shaking. $8,333, his mother's surgery, his debts paid, all of it on the other side of one trigger pull. But Bumpy had 47 men, and Deshaun had a Tommy gun with 50 rounds. The math didn't work. 4, 3. 2 more men broke, running, gone. Only Deshaun remained, standing in the shadow of a brownstone stoop, alone. 2. He could run, should run. Every instinct screamed at him to drop the gun and disappear. But Frank Lucas had paid him, trusted him, and Deshaun had never broken a promise in his life. 1. Deshaun stepped into the light, raised the Tommy gun, aimed at Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy looked at him, really looked at him. "You sure about this? Son?" Deshaun's voice cracked when he spoke. "Frank paid me. I keep my word." "Frank paid you to die?" "He paid me to do a job." Bumpy nodded slowly. "Respect, even now, even facing death. Respect. What's your name?" Deshaun Marlowe." "You got family, Deshaun?" "A mother, in Brooklyn. She's sick, needs surgery, can't afford it." And Frank's $8,333 was going to cover it. "Yeah." Bumpy was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his jacket. 47 guns came up, but Bumpy just pulled out an envelope. Held it up. "This is $15,000, Bumpy said. "Cash, more than Frank promised you. Enough for your mother's surgery, enough to pay off whatever debts you got, enough to start clean." Deshaun's hands shook on the Tommy gun. "Why?" "Because you're loyal. Because you keep your word. Because men like you are rare. And I don't want to kill you." Bumpy stepped forward, slowly, deliberately, walking toward Deshaun, toward the Tommy gun. "Here's the deal," Bumpy said. "You take this money, you go home, you get your mother that surgery, you forget Frank Lucas, you forget tonight, and you never, ever point a gun at me again." He was 10 feet away now, then 5, then 3. Close enough that Deshaun could pull the trigger and end it. Bumpy held out the envelope. "Or you can pull that trigger, kill me. Maybe kill 2 or 3 of my men before they cut you down, and your mother dies in that hospital while you bleed out on this sidewalk. Your choice." Deshaun stared at the envelope, at Bumpy's calm face, at the 47 men surrounding him. He lowered the Tommy gun, took the envelope. "Smart man," Bumpy said. Then he turned to face his men. "Anyone else want to try?" Silence. The street was empty except for Bumpy's people. Frank's 12 had become 1, and that one had just switched sides. "Let's go home," Bumpy said. March 3rd, 1967, 4:17 a.m. Frank Lucas sat in his apartment, waiting for the phone call, the confirmation, Bumpy's dead, job's done. Instead, his door burst open. Jimmy Jazz ran in, out of breath, terrified. "They failed," Jimmy gasped. "What?" "All of them." Bumpy knew. He was waiting. How many did we lose?" "None. They all ran, except one. Deshaun." Frank stood up. "Deshaun killed him." Deshaun took money from Bumpy and walked away. The room spun. $100,000. Wasted. 12 men. All of them either ran or turned, and Bumpy Johnson was still alive. The phone rang. Frank stared at it. Let it ring 3 times. Picked up. "Hello?" Bumpy's voice. Calm, but almost friendly. "Frank, we need to talk. I don't know what you sent 12 men to kill me tonight. Cost you $100,000. How's it feel to waste that kind of money?" Frank said nothing. "Here's what's going to happen," Bumpy continued. "You're going to stop. Stop the moves. Stop the plays. Stop thinking you can run Harlem, because every time you try, I'm going to know. I'm going to be there. And next time, I won't be this kind. You don't, I've got men inside your operation, Frank, always have. You think Marcus is loyal to you? You think Jimmy doesn't report everything you say? You think any of your people wouldn't sell you out for the right price? Frank's blood went cold. Your tribute just went up, Bumpy said. 20,000 a month now. Double. Call it a stupidity tax. And if you're late, if you're short, if you even think about trying something like tonight again, those 12 men who ran, they're going to testify to the cops about who hired them. You'll be in Rikers by morning. You wouldn't try me. Click. The line went dead. Frank stood there holding the phone, shaking. He'd spent $100,000, recruited 12 men, planned for 6 weeks. And Bumpy had known the entire time, had turned it into a demonstration of power, had walked out into an ambush with 47 armed men, had offered the only shooter brave enough to stay alive more money than Frank had paid him, and had just doubled Frank's tribute. Frank Lucas never tried to kill Bumpy Johnson again. March 5th, 1967. 10 a.m., Deshaun Marlowe sat in his mother's hospital room. The surgery was scheduled for tomorrow, paid in full. He'd have $15,000 in cash delivered to the hospital administration that morning. His mother was sleeping, peaceful. For the first time in months, she looked comfortable. Deshaun thought about that night, about standing on 135th Street with a Tommy gun, about Bumpy Johnson walking toward him, unafraid, offering him a choice. Most men would have killed him, would have made an example, would have sent a message written in blood. But Bumpy had seen something in Deshaun: loyalty, honor, desperation. And instead of destroying him, Bumpy had saved him. There was a knock on the door. Bumpy's cousin Nat stood there. "Mr. Johnson wants to see you." Deshaun followed Nat to a black Cadillac outside. Bumpy sat in the back seat. Deshaun got in. "How's your mother?" Bumpy asked. "Surgery's tomorrow, and they said she's got a good chance." "Good." Bumpy handed him another envelope. "What's this?" "A job offer. I need security. Men who can think, who can stay calm under pressure, who keep their word. You proved you got all three." Deshaun opened the envelope. A contract. $500 a week. Health insurance. Benefits. "I don't understand. I tried to kill you." "You tried to honor a contract. Different thing. Frank Lucas paid you to do a job. You were going to see it through even when it meant dying. That's rare. That's valuable." "What about Frank?" "Frank's got bigger problems than you, and if you work for me, he can't touch you. Nobody can." Deshaun looked at the contract, at Bumpy's calm face, at the choice in front of him. "When do I start?" "Tomorrow, after your mother's surgery." They shook hands. Deshaun Marlowe would work for Bumpy Johnson for the next 18 months. He'd be there the night Bumpy died in 1968, would help carry the casket, would tell the story of March 3rd, 1967 for the rest of his life. The night he pointed a gun at the king of Harlem, and the king offered him a kingdom instead. Here's what Frank Lucas never understood. Power isn't about how many men you can hire. It's about how many men will die for you without being paid. Bumpy Johnson didn't survive that night because he had more guns. He survived because he had more loyalty. 47 men showed up to protect him, not because he paid them, because he'd protected them first. When they couldn't make rent, Bumpy paid it. When their kids were sick, Bumpy covered the hospital bills. When the cops harassed them, Bumpy made phone calls. And he invested in his community. And when the time came, that community invested back. Frank Lucas spent $100,000 trying to kill Bumpy. Bumpy spent $15,000 to turn Frank's best shooter into his own employee. That's the difference between a gangster and a king. Gangsters buy fear. Kings earn loyalty. Frank's 12 men ran when the odds turned. Bumpy's 47 would have stayed if the odds were 100 to 1, because they weren't fighting for money. They were fighting for the man who'd fought for them. 3 weeks later, Frank Lucas showed up at Bumpy's office with $20,000 in cash. Double tribute. On time. He never missed a payment again, never made another move, never questioned Bumpy's authority. Because he'd learned the hardest lesson in Harlem. You don't come at the king unless you're ready to lose everything. And Frank Lucas wasn't ready. Look, if this story got you hyped, smash that subscribe button. We're dropping these Bumpy Johnson stories every week, and the next one is absolutely insane. Drop a comment. If you were Frank, would you have sent 12 men or gone yourself? Could you have outsmarted Bumpy Johnson? Turn on those notifications because next week we're breaking down the time Bumpy walked into a 5 families meeting unarmed and walked out controlling 3 territories. You don't want to miss that. Remember, in Harlem, loyalty wasn't bought. It was earned. And Bumpy Johnson earned his every single day.